You are looking live at a daily chart of the Nasdaq, which had its first close over 18,000 today, which is Tuesday, July 2. So July has had 2 days in a row where the Nasdaq has been up over 140 points. Today it was up 149. You round it up to 150 or 0.84% and closed at 18,028. Or if you want to round it up, 0.29. How about that? It did not take out the high from Friday though, right? 18,035. Today's high was 18,031. So it did not trade at a new high, but it did close at a new high. More importantly, I think, the Nasdaq is, the leading index. We know the stocks that are driving this index higher. And right now it's 7% above its 50 simple moving average, 2.8% above the 21, and 1.4% above the 10. And just trending higher in a nice power trend here. Finding support, at the 10 EMA every time it pulls back. It finds support. Hasn't been, below the 21 since May 31. So you're looking at a nice stretch here where the Nasdaq is just a leading index, powering higher and looking fantastic. Like I said, 1.4% above the 10, 2.8% above the 21, and 7% above the 50, which is this red line here. Anyway, the Nasdaq looks fantastic. I know the volume's lighter. This is a holiday shortened week. We're half a day on Wednesday. We're off on July 4th, and then we resume on Friday, and we get the jobs number, the non-farm payrolls on Friday morning. But it's been pretty quiet. I mean, if you look at the volume here, it's way below average, 18% below the 50-day average. So, take it for what it's worth. But it seems like an extension from last week where we had window dressing, where, all the stocks like all the MAGA 7 stocks, except for NVIDIA, were being bought. So it seems like they're selling NVIDIA to buy Tesla and Amazon. I don't know if that's true or not, but it does seem that way. And I'm not even going to look at the other indexes because the Nasdaq's, they're driving the bus right now and having a fantastic year. You could see the big rallies, just one little pullback here, and now another big rally. So the Nasdaq's having a phenomenal year. And what are some of the stocks driving the Nasdaq? Well, I'm going to go through them. I'm going to start with Apple. Apple, had this double bottom base. I think you'd see it better on the weekly chart here. It's how it shows up here. The Dolly Parton pattern, the run up, and now it's just kind of traded sideways, trying to get back above that old 220 level. And it did today. It made a new high today. I believe it, what was it, 220.38? Yeah, so it got above the old 220.20. That's a nice little short base supported by the 10. So obviously, there's some buying here from maybe one of the, because it takes a lot to move these Mag 7 stocks. I mean, there's a $3.3 trillion stock. So Microsoft is another one over 3 trillion. And this one is just grinding higher. It looks a lot different than Apple. You can see the double bottom bit. Well, I'd call it a flat base, but I'd call it a double bottom, but flat base, whatever. It's just trending higher once it broke out here. Supported by the 10 EMA, just surfing its 10 EMA. And you can see the last couple of days, and even last week it had these hammer candles, right? Where it closed near the high, closed near the high on Monday, closes near the high, 95% of its daily range, and today 95% of its daily range. So those are very bullish candles for Microsoft and just grinding higher. It closed at 459 today. So Microsoft looks fantastic. Apple looks fantastic. Let's go to Amazon. That closed over 200. It closed right at 200 today. Nice move. We've had these on our ready list for the last couple of weeks. Amazon, Google, Apple, Meta. This is what's driving the market. I forget what I had on today. I got to go back to my paperwork. I know we had Meta. I think I took Apple off because it's getting a little extended. But Amazon, now this one's going to have to come off too. I'm not sure if I had it on this week or not, but it's getting extended above the, it's nearly 6% above the 21. So sure, it can grind higher, but it's probably going to pull back at some point. And probably going to have trouble with the 200 level, which I thought Tesla might. Tesla, they came out with numbers this morning after I'd already reported, and I think it was down in pre-market, but man, once they reported those numbers, and it wasn't the auto numbers. The auto sales were like a 4.8 decrease over last year, 4.8% decrease, but it beat expectations. What is happening with Tesla now is they're becoming a AI and power company more than they're not paying as much attention to the electric vehicle sales. And so that would be another area. I know they're going to talk about robo taxis and all that, but a lot of power is needed for this AI build out, and Tesla seems to be in pretty good shape for that. It was up 10% today in a move not to be ignored, with 136% above average daily volume. So Tesla breaking out of this stage one base. I thought it would have trouble at 200. I thought it would have trouble with resistance at the 200 SMA, but neither one of them seemed to bother. Tesla just ripped right through that level. And that's what you want to see, power, like that power from that pivot area. We talked about the downtrend line, how it traded above the downtrend line last week. We put it on our ready list last week, and then I think I took it off this week because it, started getting extended, right? Well, it's getting more extended now. I think last Friday it closed, 7.4% above the 21, and it just went boom, boom. Now it's 21% above the 21. So it's getting up there. Yeah, but it's only, if you want to look at it another way, it's only 12% above its 200. So Tesla looks fantastic though, breaking out of a stage one base, and once it got above that breaking above that downtrend line, Tesla has momentum. Okay, so I did Tesla and I did Amazon. I have to do Meta, and I know Meta's on our watch list as well. It's just having trouble at the 500 number, and I think eventually, when we look in the rear view mirror, 500 will be, long gone. But for now, it's just trading sideways around that 500 number. It's still up 1% today, which is a good day, but still having trouble. Cup with handle pattern. If you could probably see it a little better on the weekly, maybe. Yeah, there it is, your little cup, little handle, and it's just having trouble there. You can see right at that 500 level, these weekly closes, one up, one below, one up, one below. So we'll see what happens. Just playing teeter-totter with 500. And I'm going to move on to Google because I did mention Google. Kelly Slater stock broke out, supported by the moving average. It's surfing its MA, so nothing to do there but count your money. And NVDA is the one that ran up 46% from the earnings breakout on May 23 there, and it ran 46% from May 23 to June 20th. And now it's pulled back. It's backing and filling, taking a breather, forming a base, consolidating, whatever you want to call it. If you own this and a couple other these flat trading stocks, you're missing out on the moves in the Nasdaq. So that's why I traded out of NVIDIA, because I don't expect it to do much. I mean, it already did the heavy lifting here, and now it's giving way to some of these other Mag 7 stocks. So it could very well be that they're selling NVIDIA and buying Tesla and Amazon. So anyway, I believe that's it for our Mag 7 stocks. And since I'm on the semiconductor names, I've got to go to AMD, which is forming a base as well. They had a news today about somebody's consulting with them for some supercomputer. So AMD, but it was up 4%, but still just forming a base here. It got above the 50, closed 3.3% above the 50, but I don't expect much out of it until we get a new data point here on July 30th. Broadcom with their 10-for-1 stock split, pull back. It's 21 out, found support, and it's been up the last 3 sessions. Looks like it stopped going down, right? That's a nice little waterfall trade. And it stopped going lower. So if it stopped going lower, it's either got to go sideways or go higher. It's not going lower. UCTT, which is a semiconductor equipment stock. Just wanted to mention this. It made new highs today. We always want to acknowledge a strong stock and a strong group. This equipment group is the number 3 out of 197 groups. and stocks making new highs in strong groups got to be acknowledged. Don't ignore them. All right, that's it for the semiconductors. I have to get to the drug stocks because Lilly had news today. Lilly, they got their Alzheimer's drug approved. It was down a lot. If you look at the 5-minute chart, we could see the open. They got slammed by Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden for charging too much for their weight loss drugs. But, cooler heads prevailed and bought this thing up. So, a little bit of selling and then buyers come in and buy the dip. So, Lilly just, you can see it almost pull back to its 21 today. But the point is that these politicians, it's an election year, right? And if you look at the bigger picture, Lilly's been doing gangbusters, for 15 years now. All of a sudden, it's a problem that the price of their drugs, because it's an election year, and this is politicians grandstanding and catering to, a voting bloc, which we know the elderly, which are most of their drug, constituents, and they want lower drug prices. This is music to their ears, so it plays well politically, but I kind of doubt they're going to do anything about it. Their Alzheimer's drug is approved. I think some of the people in Congress will probably need some of these drugs. They're really getting crazy these days. Not to be, make fun of a disease like that. My grandfather had Alzheimer's, but this is crazy. I mean, this is a really good drug. These are the people, these are the companies, these are the drugs that are solving problems, and they're being attacked by politicians. Instead of, addressing the real problem, which is diabetes and obesity in our country, which comes from our, food chain, but they don't want to solve any problems. They just want to grandstand for votes. And that's, all politicians do that. I'm just not picking on Bernie and Joe Biden. They just happen to be the politicians of the flavor of the month. Novo Nordisk, this one pulled back as well. Like I said, these guys, okay, it sold off, then cooler heads prevailed and they just bought it up. Not a big deal. And if you look at Novo for forever and a day, they've been treating diabetes for a long, long time. Not a word said. Now all of a sudden the drug prices are too high. I have so many friends who are on Ozempic and Mounjaro and Zepbound. They pay less than 200 a month, and they go to a doctor and get shots. So I really don't know where. I don't think Bernie and Joe Biden really know what they're talking about. I don't think they're talking about $1,200 a month, and it's crazy. I think once the NVO CEO visits with Bernie, he's going to sit him down and school him on the price of R&D for these drugs. It costs a lot to manufacture, and actually they're selling everything they make. Both Lilly and Novo Nordisk need these manufacturing plants, and that's why Lilly is building new plants, Novo's expanding their plants, and they bought this Catalent company, and they need that deal to go through. So I'm sure they're going to have to, grease some palms, pay some money, and get that deal to go through so they can manufacture, because this is a global phenomenon where people are obese all over the world. And I originally had bought Novo Nordisk in 1999, thanks to a financial advisor who told me that he thought China was going to be obese because they were eating so much better. And so you could see the move that Novo Nordisk, I wish I would have bought more back when Casey told me, but I didn't. But, now it's become very obvious that, since the pandemic as well, that expedited some of this obesity too in the country, where people sitting at home and they gained a lot of weight. And it's a serious issue. Politicians should be helping these companies and not blasting them just for political gain. But they're interested in votes and not helping people. So to me, it's not a big deal. This will be in the rear view mirror, and there'll be another politician a few years from now saying the same thing. But the problem is that these companies have to get manufacturing up to speed to meet the demand. The demand is just 10 times what the supply is. And that's why we need more companies with weight loss drugs like Viking, which has nice compounds, but they need to come to market with the drug. And they haven't done so. They have no manufacturing. So whoever wins the manufacturing game is going to win this obesity play, and not the best drug. It's who can manufacture the most, because there's just insatiable demand. Anyway, I'm going to move on from the weight loss drugs. Yeah, no, Novo was also downgraded today because who knows? I don't know. Vertex, this one looks good here. We had it on our ready list a few weeks ago and it broke out. Now it's pulled back to its 21. And it's like it's forming a little shelf type pattern along the 21 there. So Vertex to me looks pretty good. Another one that I like that I listened to their conference call, and I think this thing's worth a lot more than $11 here. Of course, it's not going to go up every day or every week, but this is definitely one to put on your watch list when they break out like that 27% and just ride their moving averages higher. This thing's likely to go higher. Anyway, that's it for the drugs. Sorry for the rant. It's just, you have to know what you own and you have to know, the political climate of the day. It's not a big deal. This goes on all the time with drug companies. All right, I'm going to move on to the retail restaurant names, which kind of sold off today. There was a data out that restaurants are still growing at a nice clip, but they're slowing a little bit. So, there was a big spike after COVID. Everybody got out and wanted to go on cruises and party and go to dinner and enjoy shows and concerts, which is great. But now we're seeing that spike slow down just a little bit. There's still going to be winners and losers, of course, but the spike is subsiding and now we're just getting back to like normal growth patterns. This is Dutch Bros, which is a little bit extended here. We had this on our ready list as well, but it's just too hot and too high for me. 18% above the 50 and 6.2% above this 21 here. But certainly, if it pulls back to moving average, that's when I want to jump on this thing. And you could see institutions. Somebody was telling me, like, look at all the selling in Bros, man. Look at this day. There was a seller in this day. Yeah, okay. And then you look at the weekly chart, right? Because that tells the real story. And if you look at Bros on a weekly chart, hello, I mean, all these weeks they're going up are in massive volume, and the one down week is on light volume. So if you're a volume person, don't at me with Bros because this thing is being bought by institutions. And you can see the EPS data, and institutions don't buy every day or every week or even every month. They establish positions over time. And that's what they're doing here with Dutch Bros. I don't know, how long this phenomenon will last. I think they're taking market share from Starbucks and it's going to last a while. It's just time will tell because in restaurant and coffee business, there's no real moat, and consumers are very finicky. So if there's a coffee shop that comes out down the street that's better, then Bros is going to have competition issues. But for now, they're taking market share, definitely from Starbucks. All right, another one, Sweet Green was bloody red today, below the 50. Don't like to see this here. It jumped 34% on May 10th following earnings, and now has sliced its 50. So that's a little bit too much. I don't like stocks below their 50. You can see the big blue bars, it's being bought and going down on lighter volume. So it would seem to me I would, just doing this for as long as I have it, at some point, the selling's going to subside and this thing's going to rally back through its 50. And that'll be a buy at some point. So you keep your eye on Sweet Greens. They've got real nice growth numbers as well. CAVA, another one in the retail restaurant group. These are the four that I like that I'm showing here. So there's a lot of others. I know that, but I can't show all of them. This is a big group. CAVA, surfing, it's 21. And if you just look at the weekly chart, I think I show this just about every day because it's a stock that I like, but you can see that it broke above its IPO base and then pulled back nicely. So that's why I always look for pullbacks and then bounces, right? You want to buy the bounce. And this one bounced nicely below $60. I think it was right around that 50s. Where is it? $58 area. So that was a nice buy if you got it at 58. It's now at 94. So CAVA looks good. And then Wingstop, another one who, all the bears are telling me how overvalued it is. And that's the bears' go-to line when we're in a bull market, is that everything's overvalued. That's because the multiples are expanding just like they contracted during the bear market. So, there's no right answer to this. Just play the market, play what it gives you. If it's expanding and it's going higher, we'll play that. And if they're contracting and it's going lower, well, either short or get the heck out of the road, but don't argue, okay? Don't argue. This thing's going higher. It's being supported by its moving averages, and it looks fine to me. So I'm going to move on because some of these retail names are bugging me. This is Deckers. And I can see this thing breaking out and returning back to its buy point. A lot of stocks do that. That's fine. You can see on this day it broke out 14%, March 24th. So the high of the prior day was 908. So that's got a gap to fill there at 908. Yesterday it came down to 918 or 919. Didn't fill that gap. Today it had an inside day with the low as 925. So I could see it filling the gap below the 50 and then ripping higher, but there's no rhyme or reason for Deckers to be trading off of Nike's poor earnings report, because this is why Nike has such poor earnings reports, because Deckers is taking share from them and On Holdings is taking share from them. So why these are below the 50? Now, like I said, I just got through saying don't argue with the market, so don't argue. I mean, they're selling these things, but just watch them. And when cooler heads prevail and they figure out like, hey, these companies are taking market share from Nikes and are going to report good numbers, they're going to trade higher too, but they're not ready yet. So just keep them on your watch list, keep them ready. And Crocs is another one that's a little bit of befuddling to me. It broke out from that 146. Was it 146.79, and then traded higher. Went up to 165.32 last week or the week before, June 20th, probably the week before. Anyway, it pulled back to its 50. So I thought, okay, it's going to bounce, and it did bounce nicely from 142 to 147. 150 yesterday, and now pulled back today to it's 50 once again. You don't want to see that. You don't want to keep seeing a stock pounding upon the 50, because one of these days it's going to break through. So Crocs needs to bounce and rip higher. I don't know what's going to do it. An upgrade, I don't know. Raise guidance from management, you never know. But I would expect it to get off that 50 here. And 146.79 is still a buy point, and it's still trading right there. Yeah, you just got to take it one day at a time with Crocs. Anyway, I'm going to move on. Team to some of the software names. Team was upgraded today. Another one to keep on your watch list. I mean, it's got this accelerating sales growth, 21, 21, 30. It's got 65% earnings growth, but it's below, below the 200, kind of looking a little like Tesla here, where it made a low of 154, then retested that low, went down to 152, and now it's been higher, like 10 days in a row. So keep your eye on this one and see if it can drive through the 200 SMA and the $200 level, much like Tesla did. And you can see here on and these software names have been getting hammered, finally starting to get some love. It's about time the last, 3 weeks. So definitely keep your eye on this one. This is trying to break out of a stage 1 base. CrowdStrike was downgraded today. I think it was Piper Sandler said, we love the stock, we love the business, they're taking market share. We just think it's overvalued. So it was down nearly 2%. Still, to me, forming a shelf pattern, pulled back to its 10, and gosh, you could see this low volume, minuscule day. This trade range was tight. What, $6 between the high and the low? Closed at the upper half of the daily range. So that's a good sign. Just traded down to its 10. And once again, if you're one of these box type persons, these Darvis people who like to buy a stock when it breaks out of a box, this one's got 394.64 written all over it. So it could do that in a day. CrowdStrike can really move, as we saw here when it broke out from 166, ran up to 260, pulled back, ran up to 365, and consolidated in this base. So CrowdStrike can really move fast. And as long as it consolidates in this box and doesn't break down and gets supported to moving averages, I like CrowdStrike. I think it's one of the big leaders in this market. Aside from the Magnificent Seven and those drug stocks that I showed earlier, Spotify, this one is going to wear me out. I try not to look at it. It's on my ready list. I own it, but it's driving me crazy. It's kind of like NVO, where it's just going sideways for how many weeks in a row here? What, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and in NVO is the same thing. I forgot to show you the weekly on NVO. This will drive you crazy. 4 weeks tight, and today closed right at last week's close, which is what, 140, 142 and change on NVO. Sorry for going back and forth. I forgot I wanted to show this here. Yeah, 42.74 today, 142.98, 142, 142, 142. That's all it does, is not going anywhere. Then this is a flat base in and of itself, a 5 weeks tight pattern, which is another add-on buy point for NVO, but it's going to drive you crazy, much like Spotify, where it's just going sideways. And these things are going to move when they want to move, not when we want them to move or we would like them to move. You know, you can't always get what you want, as Mick's saying, Mick Jagger, and it's true. You know, you get what you need. And so I own Spotify, I own NVO. I wish these would move. They're really frustrating me, but as long as I own some of the Mag 7, I'm still doing okay. But yeah, I wish they would, I wish they would move, darn it. Patience is a real skill in the stock market. Anyway, that's it for me today. Um, it's pretty quiet. This is pretty quiet trading. It's a holiday week. Like I say, half day tomorrow, closes at 1 p.m. Eastern time. Tomorrow closed Thursday. We'll reopen Friday with the non-farm payrolls. And anyway, in the honor of the great Steve Jobs, I do have one more thing. I just wanted to point out that these Bitcoin's doing nothing. This is a hot mess here. This is a bit the ETF. This is just going nowhere. Bitcoin, I don't know what's going on. Usually Bitcoin is a proxy for growth and risk. I mean, it's just not doing anything. And the stocks that are tied to Bitcoin are just doing nothing. I mean, I wouldn't short that because they're very explosive. But I mean, this is below the 50, and you can see the selling here. I don't know what's going on with Bitcoin. Maybe the run from I don't know, $8 to what, $60,000, and it needs to rest for a while. But these stocks are not doing anything. Coinbase, this thing can't get out of its own way. There is one stock that I like here that's related to energy and Bitcoin, and that's Iris Energy, which has a Bitcoin play. They mine Bitcoin. It's a miner. It was up 14% today. It's got that old high at 14.95 here. So watch for this one. You can see how it pulled back like a waterfall trade down to the 21. This is textbook action here, where it finds support and blasts higher the last couple of days. Gosh, what is it up this week? Yeah, 27% for the week. So that's why I point these out, these stocks. Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin's doing nothing, but this one is doing something. So anyway, you can see the big volume on this thing recently, how it's just starting to get noticed. Average volume 13 million shares traded. But anyway, that's it for me. I'll be back tomorrow morning. I'm not going to change my ready list right now. Obviously, what's working is that mega cap tech. That's probably not going to change. This week. So just like my old football coach used to say, just never forget what works and keep running that play. Just keep running the same play until they stop it. So that's what I plan on doing. Thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up.